Morning everybody, welcome back to the channel. So this is the field where we spun on the wheat, and this is a bit of a barren patch here, but as you will note, there's actually quite a few young plants established now, and we're hoping that these will fill out. But we were just, coming back to these barren patches that we've discussed before. Could be where straw trailers have been loaded, but also looking here at these badger set, whether there could actually be just a lot of badgers dragging straw down the hole, just enough disturbance to break up the surface. But otherwise, the winter wheat in the background, also flexi wheat drilled in November, is looking good, and this has certainly improved considerably from when we last visited in March. So this area around here, although it appears an original badger set, we were noticing that there is rabbit droppings around here, and similarly this one just here looks a bit like a rabbit bolt hole, and I do wonder if this might actually be rabbit grazing. So that's something for us to look at. Now, one thing about these little wheat plants that we have here is whether they're going to become viable. Are we going to get issues with harvesting? Are all of the grains going to be ready at the same time? And there's definitely going to be an impact on yields here, but we are talking about cost-effective solutions, not about maximizing yield. It's like land. It's never going to win any sort of yield competitions. So it's got to be cost effective. We've got a very dry year this year. It's going, unless we get significant rain, it's going to drought out. So it's got to be cost effective. So it'll be interesting to follow this through to harvest and see what effect it's having. Certainly in the thicker bit of the crop, it looks as if it's a viable alternative. So we shall see as we take it through to harvest. So here we are in the thicker bit of the crop. Now, one bit of concern I do have is the amount of cleavers, sticky buds that we have growing in here. So we're just about to come through with a spray to take that out. But if you catch a row here which is just a little bit thinner, you see we've got viable alternative plants just filling in. And really that's more what we're after, not so much the efficacy of the technique for an empty patch like that, but more in these areas where you've got a viable flexi wheat crop, but you've just got a little bit lighter population here. So will these few plants just provide enough to fill in the gap? And actually, this is one of the reasons behind our most recent decision. We've decided to buy a weeder, and the reason is it's to try and provide in this flexi wheat slot we actually struggle to roll, and so we're going to just try a little tickle on the surface to break up and cover the seed to see if we can provide a bit more seed coverage in the flexi wheat slot, because flexi wheat is important for our system, and similarly it gives us the opportunity to weed cleavers and broadleaf weeds in the spring. So more about weeding in a second. Okay, so we just walked further into the field, and again we're confronted with one of these, what appears to us to be an ex-badger works, but there is a question about the droppings. Here you go, you've got a patch, an empty patch, and then in my feet here, now to me this is a classic badger set where you've got a lot of soil moved outside, but these droppings are definitely rabbit. Okay, and over here you've got the more outs, more. Now this one definitely looks like a slide, like, you know, that the badger was pulling stuff in here. But again, this one, and there appeared to be the more rabbit droppings here. It just strikes me that potentially this was a badger set, but now the rabbits have moved in, hence the droppings, and they could be the reason that these areas are staying empty. But I am not a wildlife expert, and I'd appreciate any comments about whether the audience thinks it's a rabbits or badgers. But yes, please give us your comments in the section below. We also see the little scalloped little holes, digging holes with rabbit droppings around them, so I think it could be rabbits. So this field is a field of lion spring oats, and what we've been absolutely amazed by is the speed of the blackgrass development. Now oats, we chose oats because it is a very competitive crop. It has an allelopathy effect, so it actually suppresses the blackgrass, and as you can see, you know, the oats are a good strong plant, and the hope is that the oat plant can outcompete a blackgrass. You've got a wheat versus an oats versus the blackgrass, so the hope is that you outcompete. However, this blackgrass has gone from a weedable state to unweedable in less than a week. If we'd had the weeder previously, we would have weeded earlier, but it's been amazing how fast it has taken over, considering this is a spring cereals and obviously burnt off before drilling, and we did a post drilling pre-emergence glyphosate as well, so we've tried everything we can, but there's very little chemistry post-emergence to be used on oats. Okay, just so that you don't think we're looking at rubbish crops all the time, this is a field of spring wheat, and we've had some issues with it. It follows a multi-species cover crop. We've had some issues in the past with this field where we've gone with a disc coulter, and that we just felt that it dried up and it cracked, and therefore this time we've intentionally gone with the Claydon. Now actually, as we come down the field, it does get a little bit thinner in this patch, and my father is obsessed with trying to figure out this patching bit. So he has a theory that if you come down this section and we have a look down here on the ground, which let's say is an average coverage, you will notice that this would be unmoved Claydon ground. This would be a moved Claydon. You can see a bit more soil movement in the band. So the band runs down here. Okay, now this one is reasonably level left to right, whereas if we travel a metre to the right, where it gets a bit thinner, here again you can see where the Claydon tine has run, and you can see it's actually blown the seed either side of the channel. So this is the soft, this is where the tine's gone, as you can see. Still a little bit of moisture there. Now it's left it more open here, and this row is thinner, and the theory is that the birds, the crows and the pigeons, have actually been picking through this. And as he walks along with his walking stick, and he's pushing it in here hard, pushing it in here hard, pushing it in here soft, and so the birds can actually do the same, and they're pecking away, and they know where the channel is because they've got the two hard walls of the claydon and the soft bit in the middle. So hopefully our raking the surface will confuse them a little bit more in future, but we're quite pleased with this definite improvement. So we've discussed it before, how your rotation, cultivation and cropping selects for weeds that suit that system, and really that is never clearer than in this field. So this field, it's relatively light. It has got some heavier land in the valley down there, but the outbreak of creeping thistle, not known as a big arable weed, but we're finding in a system where we're using cover crops and direct drilling, the creeping thistle is becoming a major issue as we try and cut down on our SUs, our sulfur ureas, because they have such an effect on establishment of the cover crop that we have been trying to cut down on our SU usage, and as a result we get a lot more creeping thistle. So it's just interesting that you avoid one weed, as in blackgrass, and we run into a different weed, creeping thistle, and a bit more brome as well. So this field has actually been treated with Broadway Star, and hopefully that will have an effect on these creeping thistles as well. So in the last journey we were also discussing rotation, and in that previous block we've previously had beans, then winter wheat, then flexi wheat. What is our next option? It's light land. We discussed potential linseed, and whether we could hide it from the flax beetle by disguising it with some spring oats. The concern from the agronomist was he wants as much naked soil for a good blackgrass control, but similarly naked soil leads to weed competition. So still not convinced by that, and also so then possibly barleys. The issue is we don't have a lot of success with growing spring barley for malting, and it really doesn't seem to like direct drilling. So personally I'm not too keen on that as an option, which then brings us back to winter barley and maybe a hybrid to compete with grass weeds. But any thoughts on rotation would also be much appreciated. Another comment we were making was how the ground doesn't look as if it's been rolled. Plenty of lumps on the surface, and this is something we struggled with in the past, where you get this unmoved solid bit, and if you between the tines of the claydon, and this is where the tine's been, and that the rolls ride on this unmoved ground either side and don't actually consolidate the channel where the A share ran. Now in the past we used to get through this with using a Simba press with DD rings on it, because the DD had the effect of squishing to the sides, and because there's a point on a DD, it kind of consolidated vertically and pushed to the side, and it's certainly a tool that we are missing. It really gave us something extra. However, what we're hoping is the introduction of the weeder will give us more ability to work that surface and maybe scrape smooth soil that's sitting on top of the unmoved ground and get it to fill in that channel a bit more. But time will tell if that is a solution. Talking of systems selecting weeds, here we've got a classic example of a weed that we really struggle with in a direct drilling system, and that is mare's tail. glyphosate resistant and quite tricky to deal with. And again, in this is a bit of land where we did a tree shearing, so hence there's lots of residue on the ground. So it has got a history of we've been struggling to crop it. It's next to a willow, but it is tricky. But you've got the mare's tail and you've got the giant ragweed, so it starts on the edge of the field and creeps in. And we've tried lots of different mechanisms. I think we've got a chemical formula that enables chemical control, but it is difficult. And as you can see here, it's sitting on the quite clear rows here, and it sits on the unmoved ground. The moved ground is relatively clear, and then it grows again. It really doesn't like ground movement. I think in the past we've even tried ploughing one strip round the headland for control, but I think we are making progress with the chemical control. So one of the comments John Kempf makes is that although farmers spend a lot of time thinking about their soil and looking how their plants grow, because soil degradation happens so slowly, you very rarely get the opportunity to see it and understand it in action. And fortunately, I can share. I've been sharing one of our fields previously where there was a bit of a split, and I could show you, but I've just discovered another one. So here we are. This is a field of spring wheat, and I just pan around. So in fact, look, nice strong population. Pan around slowly. You can see the hedge line, the old hedge line, and there. That for a stark difference. This is long-term arable, and then that is probably it's been in arable for 3 years, and this is the dividing line. So these two bits have had the same crop now for the last 3 years. And it just, all that's happened is the hedge has been removed. And why is it being removed? Because I've got a building site just here. So it just goes to show there has been significant soil degradation over the years. Unnoticeable, unseen, completely same. The drill just passes straight through. It's a lovely long field now. Passes straight through, no difference in cropping for 3 years, no difference in any of the treatments, how it was established, nothing. But there you go, that's the difference. So thank you very much for your time, everybody. See you next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Please give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the video, and click on the little bell to get notifications of when our next video goes live. Thank you very much. See you next time.